Alright guys, so once you've finished exporting it, you can go to the folder where it's exported and you can either right click and import to, or you can open up the folder and drag that into the viewport. Now, I believe that we need use T0 as ref pose because I believe that it did put him in the Unreal A pose, but that's stored at time 0 on the timeline here. And that's the reason why we need to check that. If it's from AccuRig or Character Creator, then that's what you're going to use. And we're going to import him. And you'll see he's in the A pose. I'm just going to name that text and put that under here. And we can actually just use the same method. So if I go back into this folder, we have this, and I don't know exactly how this is supposed to work right here, but I'm just going to hook it up anyway. It doesn't come out looking right, I don't think, but I don't know exactly how you're supposed to use this texture. It's one of those weird color map textures where it has to be on one of these colors for it to come out as that color. And then you can do like bit shift operations or some crap like that to shift it over to another color. It's weird. I don't know why he did that. Yeah, I don't know why he did that. So anyway, I'm just going to hook that up anyway. Now it actually doesn't come out looking right anyway, because if we come over here, you'll see he's gray. And his eyes came out, but the rest of them didn't come out, I don't think. So I don't know exactly how that's supposed to work, but you can look at the UVs by going to Advanced, UV Visualization, UV Channel, and it's not apparent, and you can't zoom in, but there's a UV there in that tiny little space. If we come in here and we go to UV Edit, and we select, well, let's come out of edit mode, and we select the character. Okay. So if I go into edit mode and I just press A to select all the faces, you'll see that he has these in different places. I don't know what's going on there, but anyway. So he has something weird going on with that. Me personally, I'd probably re-UV him and retexture him myself. I don't know. But anyway. So let's just go ahead and start setting up. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the DAO folder, go into characters, go under UE4 mannequin because he does have a UE4 skeleton now. So I'm going to copy this over to the Synty folder, copy here. Come over here, open it up, select the skeletal mesh. You'll see that there's nothing here, but there actually is something there. It's a bug. So select your Synty skeletal mesh and press the back button. He doesn't appear. That's a bug. So reset this property and then set it again. Now he's there. So the next thing we need to do is we need to add a weapon bone to his hand. So under hand R, we're going to right click, add socket. I'm just going to call this weapon underscore R. I'm going to press F2 on the keyboard and press Control C to copy that under here in the event graph. Okay, it looks like it's the same, but I'm going to Control V it anyway. What this does is it reparents the held object to the skeletal mesh so that it's under that skeletal mesh and attached to that socket on the character that we just created. This right here is going to set the IK retargeter for the live retargeting settings. But to set that, we need to go under class defaults, go to the gear icon, collapse all categories, find DAO, expand it. Under live retargeting right here, you'll see this refs category. Expand that and you'll see this right here. I'm going to browse to that and I'm going to copy this over into the Synty character folder. So I'm going to copy here. So this is an IK retargeter. I'm going to right click and create a folder. I'm going to call it rigs. And I'm going to create another folder and I'm going to call it mesh. And I'm going to drag the skeletal mesh physics asset and skeleton under the mesh folder. And then I'm going to drag this under the rigs folder. I'm going to right click on the content and update redirectors. That will make sure that when you move something, it creates files in the background that are invisible that tell Unreal Engine where you moved things to. When you right click and you update redirector references, what it does is it'll actually rewrite the file so that it's pointing to the correct place. If your engine crashes before that happens, sometimes it can mess up those, it can break those temporary references that it creates in those temporary hidden files, and that's the reason why you have to do that. So the next thing we want to do is we want to go to this mesh folder and right click on the skeletal mesh and go to create IK rig. And I'm going to drag this into the rigs folder. And I'm going to double click it. I'm going to select auto create retarget chains and auto create IK. And always double check this. Make sure that the left clavicle starts and ends at the clavicle, and that the left arm starts at the upper arm L and ends at the hand L. You do not want it to start at the clavicle. Make sure all these others match the same. Your leg should start at this bone here, and it should end at the ball bone. The upper arm starts right here. The clavicle starts right here. That's why you don't want the arm to start at the clavicle. You want it to start at this bone right here and end down here at this hand. The neck should start at the first neck joint and end at the last neck joint. So if you have one neck, it'll go from neck 1 to neck 1. If you have two, it'll go from neck 1 to neck 2. Same with spines. Basically, it's all self-explanatory. But if you bring in the Synty character without re-rigging it like I did, then you'll have to know that, because when you do this auto create retarget chains, it'll start it at the clavicle, which is wrong. That's not where it's supposed to be. The reason why it does that is because of their naming convention on the bones, and Unreal Engine just can't pick up on it because their naming convention is so terrible that Unreal can't discern what's supposed to be the upper arm bone. So inside of this that we copied over into this folder right here, just double click it to open it. We're going to replace this IK rig right here with the one we created just now. So select this IK rig and press the back button. Now it looks fine, but what we want to do is we actually want to match the UEFN to his pose. So we're going to come up here and press this running retarget button to switch over to editing retarget pose. We're going to go to the source and we're going to match the UEFN to his pose rather than him to the UEFN pose. It's just better to do it this way. So select the UEFN's pelvis, go to auto align, align selected in children. Now the UEFN is in his pose. Now we're going to come out of editing retarget mode, and you'll see there's some problems with his feet. That's fine. We'll fix that now. Go into chain mapping tab and go down to the left leg. And what we're going to do is we're just going to have to offset that forward and down. And we don't want his leg to be locked in actuality. So we don't want it to pull his pelvis down. So maybe try 5 and 12. And then -12 and -5 on the other side, because the other side is the opposite of this one. And then what we're going to do is under, let's see, asset settings, I'm going to offset this character to the side so that we can see what they're doing better. And I'm going to type in run loop. And I'm going to select the run loop F, which is run loop forward. And I want to make sure that everything looks fine, that his legs aren't locking in a really weird way. So you can pause it and just scrub through this manually. Now we're losing some volume when his legs bend like that, but that's because he's such a low poly character. It's kind of hard to avoid stuff like that because of how low poly he is. But if you want to go in there and try to adjust those weights to get him to look better, you can. But because he's so low poly, you're going to have a really hard time trying to do that. So I'm not going to bother doing that. For me, that looks fine. Back over here, I'm going to rename this actually to Synty M, as in Synty Mel. And now I need to set that IK retargeter as this reference. So we're going to select that and we're going to press the back button. Now we're going to compile it and save it. And yeah, it's probably not going to update in here, but that's because we're not updating this on the construction script. So you can actually copy this and paste it right here and hook it up on the construction script. And now you can actually see him in the preview. And it looks like it's working fine. So now, yeah, let's test it. So to test it, we're going to go to the widgets folder, open up the game animation widget. We're going to duplicate this one right here. And then this first one, we're going to replace it with our character blueprint. This guy right here, by pressing the back button. Compile it, save it, come in here, press play. So it looks like I didn't hook something up whenever I last did this. I thought I hooked it up. Let me go into project settings. I'll be right back. Alright, my bad. So that actually didn't take long to figure out. I didn't replace this default pawn. So if you followed the setup, then you probably shouldn't have to do this, but I'll go ahead and include it anyway. So it's not difficult. Go under character data, select this character and replace it in here. And then now it works. But you'll see that his legs look funny. So that's fine. What we can do is we can open up the character blueprint, select the mesh, open up the mesh, and you'll see he has no virtual bones. So we're going to create virtual bones. I'm going to rename this to, instead of root, it's going to be foot root. And then we're going to do a foot L. And I'm going to discard everything but foot L on that. And then foot R, and same thing. We only want it to be called foot R. And then on the hand L, oops, not hand L. We want the hand L to point to hand R. We want it to be called VB space hand R, so we discard everything else. This one's going to point to hand L right here. Same thing. And now that should be it. So if I press play and it doesn't crash, it didn't, cool. Then now you'll see his legs don't look funny. So now that we've done that, oops, let me just go ahead and see. Now we have our character right here. We're going to test him out. Now the gun's not going to look right for now because we haven't adjusted the socket. But you'll see everything's working properly. Cool. Now if I pull the pistol out, you'll see he's not holding it right. So we're going to eject. And we're going to come back into this guy right here, the skeletal mesh, and I'm going to close all the other tabs to the right of that. And I'm going to dock this over here so I can see. I'm going to right click on that weapon and go to add preview asset and type in M9 so we can see what it looks like in his hand. And you see it looks just like it does in the viewport right here. So I'm going to adjust this in his hand. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. 80 degrees. Yeah. We want it to be pointing straight down the back of his hand. And then we'll move it and adjust it and come over here to the side and pull it down and maybe back a little like that. Now because his hands are so big and this is so small, it's not really designed for his hands, so you know, we're only going to get it so accurate. But you'll see now that we've adjusted those weights, that hand bends a little bit better than what it was before, or what it would have been. So let's see, it's in his hand a little crooked, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to rotate it in here so that it sits in his hand a little bit better. I'm going to press E to go into rotate mode and just rotate it 10 degrees in one direction. That seems to be enough, but you can go into your snapping tools and go to 5 or just disable snapping. It's all up to you. If you expand this, you'll see that we can just press that button to disable it, or we can set it to 5 or 2.812 is as low as you can go. I wish they had a 1 degree snap, but they don't. Maybe one day after a million people have bugged them about adding it, maybe they'll eventually add it. It would be really nice if we had a 1 degree snap, just saying. So anyway, now that we've done that, actually it looks like it's pointing down in his hand. We actually want it to be pointing straight along that finger. So we're going to rotate it. Oops. We're going to rotate it on the red. Now you'll see now, if you look at over here, it looks to be parallel to the actual index finger, and that's what we want. It doesn't matter if it looks parallel in here or not. We just want it to be parallel in here. So we can adjust the rest later. Actually, let me go back into this guy. I need to adjust it some more. Sorry. We need to bring it down. And back, apparently. Yeah. Anyway, you can get it looking however you want. It doesn't matter. It's ultimately up to you. But he's holding it. So he's got big hands. It's going to be hard to get him to hold it flush like that, and then, but anyway, you get it. So, all right, phase 2, we have to set up the blueprint. So I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to open this up, and there's more stuff under the character default settings for this. Under the live retargeted character settings, you'll see we have this stuff here. And this allows us to procedurally like offset all this stuff. So I'm just going to I'm going to come over here to this one actually. And I'm just going to copy this entire held object folder over to the Synty folder. And then I'm going to come inside of here. And I'm going to replace that DAO that stands for data asset held object definition M9. And then this is for the aiming. So you'll see this aiming tag. We're going to put that under here. And we're going to replace the ready stance right here with this live retargeted data asset. And then we're going to do the same thing for the M9. I mean the M4A1. We'll press that back button. Oop. All right. So I'm going to save everything, compile this, and now we can press this. We can go into this mode, and you'll see he's a bit inaccurate. What we're going to do first is we're going to disable the breathing. You'll see that he's breathing. That's because I'm applying an additive breathing over the top of it to make it look more dynamic. So under the DAO folder, under character data, linked anim layer, you'll see a pistol and a rifle. In each of these, we need to go under the animation layers, the overlay state right here, go inside of the overlay stance state machine and go inside of the aiming. And we need to bypass this additive UEF and breathing. And we need to do that on both of these while we're adjusting the aim offset. Now, we need to actually compile them too. Now, when you compile them, sometimes it'll break the stance and you'll have to switch to a weapon and switch back in order for the data assets to reload, or the linked anim layers to be relinked, I mean. Now, we're going to go into this held objects folder under the Synty folder and go to the M9. And we're going to go to the data asset live retargeting M9 aiming stance. And under the right arm IK, we're going to adjust this. We're going to reset it first. And we're going to actually go into the output log first. We're going to right click and clear log. And then we're going to fire. Let's see. I like to aim towards the horizon. If you see that green line going there, that's pointing to the center of the screen. The blue one is pointing down the barrel of the rifle. So we're going to get that green line to point around that horizon right there and shoot it a few times. And then we're going to copy this from the output log. The Y right here corresponds to this center one right here. And we're going to invert it by saying negative and then pasting whatever value was there. So it's negative, negative, which inverts it to a positive. And inside of Unreal Engine, you can perform basic arithmetic math operations inside of these fields. You can add, subtract, divide, and multiply these values. Now, it's not going to zero in right away. We're going to have to do this a couple of times. And so I'm going to copy this and go to the end here. I'm going to say subtract negative 1.19. Then we're going to subtract this number from this last one. And now it's pretty much zeroed in. You can try to get it better than that. I've gotten it several degrees of freedom accurate, but I'm not going to nitpick on little details like that in here. Now you can actually move the arm back and forward and stuff like that. And then you can go and adjust the other arm. But for this one, we don't really need to. We do need to adjust the left hand though. And so I'm just going to reset this right here, which actually puts it almost right where we need it. Now the thing to take away from this is do not offset the static offset, because when you aim up, the static offset will cause the hand to come off where it's supposed to be. You need it to be a local offset so that it won't come off and it'll stay where it is in this pose. regardless if you're aiming up or down. So it's a little annoying because that local offset is local to the orientation of this bone and not the mesh or world space. The static offset is actually in world space. So if you look at this gizmo right here, that's how the static offset is oriented. But that's not going to work for us, so we're going to have to use a static local offset, which is a little annoying, but you can change it, and you can watch. This is the forward and back of the hand, and this is the left and right of the hand. And this is the up and down of the hand. You see? So in actuality, I think we need to rotate it on the Z so that it's out like this, and then bring it in. Bring it back, and then bring it to the side. And you can mess around with that all day long if you want. If you rotate it enough, you should be able to get it just like you want it. And you can rotate it like this as well. But yeah. Anyway, that's basically that. So I'm going to save that. And we don't really need to worry about the resting state for that. We don't need any offsets for that. But we'll go into the rifle. And we need to do this for the rifles as well. We're going to open up the held object definition right here, because we're going to need to adjust this for the rifle. And we're just going to drop it. That looks about right. It's already level, so we don't have to worry about anything else. You could move it in a little. That's probably good. And yeah, so that's about it. And now under the data asset live retargeting M4A1 aiming stance, we're going to come in here and do the same thing. We're going to reset this. We don't really have to worry about resetting this right here, but I'm going to reset it anyway. And I'm going to shoot a couple of times, and we're going to go through the same process. So we're going to subtract that number, and then subtract this number. We're going to do it again. Subtract that number. Subtract that number. Now we're zeroed in. So now what we can do is we can actually bring this one back so it's up against the shoulder and bring it out. However you want to do it, really. But I think that's probably about good. You can even bring it up a little bit if you need. It won't affect the aim, not offsetting it back and forth and such. Under here, we're going to just reset this, and then we're going to bring it back and over and down. And actually, yeah, this needs to be rotated. Let's bring it back. And that actually looks about right. So that's that. And then we're going to go into the resting state. And we're going to do this for the ready. And I think that's probably about good enough. And that's it. Okay, so I don't know why he's running with his wrist all bent funny like that. You could, well, that's just the way he's retargeting, so I don't know what to tell you about that. That's funny. Yeah, so there still seems to be some weird jank in this. The last time I did this, I didn't notice that. Maybe I just overlooked it. So you could try going back into the IK retargeter and try rematching the UEFN pose to him. It may be because he got brought in with that weird pose. Let's see. If we redo the IK retargeter, though, we're going to have to redo all those settings on the gun for the pistol and for the aim offsets. Again, it might be that pose that it brought it in with, because last time I brought him in the T pose. I'll just go ahead and try this on the right hand only. Go to running retarget, where it says editing retarget pose source. Oh, that was the wrong one. Yeah, you see it, how it messed up his aim already. No, yeah, I guess that's just the way he runs. I don't know. I never noticed his hand being bent out like that during the run, so I'm not really sure. Let me see. We could reset selected and children. You know what? Let's try doing this. Oh. It's this. Okay. So that apparently, I'll look into that. That seems to be caused maybe by my layering system. I'll look into that. But anyway, that's basically the setup, guys. I'll see you in the next video.